Today we're going to show you how to accurately measure your kitchen so that a kitchen designer will be able to size your cabinetry properly, determine traffic flow issues, and give you proper clearances for your appliances. There are 2 points that you need to keep in mind. Number one is that we will be working to 1/8 of an inch tolerances. If you cannot do that, don't feel comfortable with doing that, find someone who can. Second point is always hold your tape parallel while you're measuring so that you'll get an accurate dimension. So let's get started. Our first task is to draw a rough sketch of the room to be measured, indicating doors and windows. Also note where any doors lead and their swing. This sketch need not be accurate. What is important is that the numbers you enter are. Knowing where primary traffic flow patterns are is important to proper design. Back entrances, dining room entrances are much more critical than, say, a pantry or cellar door. Also note the height of any windowsill above the finished floor and the distance from the top of the window to the ceiling. Remember, we are now taking measurements of existing conditions. Any wall to be moved, windows to be changed, or doors to be removed in the new design will be done based on these measurements. So here is our rough sketch. Nothing's drawn to scale. It's just a hand sketch that is going to allow us to make accurate measurements. You'll note how I've left the doorways open, and where the windows are located, I've marked the trim on the continuous wall. We're going to be looking and measuring for the width of that trim, because that will be critical if we're replacing windows or if we're replacing moldings. Second thing we'll need to know is the height of the sill of that window. That'll come into play when determining exactly how the countertops fall. And we'll also need to add the measurement for the space over the windows. That's important if you were using moldings and soffit and having to return them against the wall from the cabinetry. You'll note also that we've got marks for locating our plumbing and the electrical receptacle for the range. This is important to know if the designer is going to be changing locations of any of those appliances. Now is a good time to measure the ceiling height. We're going to need that information so that the designer can decide whether you're going to have an open soffit or you'll have crown and moldings that carry the cabinetry to the ceiling. Now, start at any convenient corner. Here we're starting at the sink wall. I place the tape above the backsplash and measure to the outside of the window trim. Think of it as if you're measuring wallpaper. Next, I'm measuring from the outside of the window trim on one side to the outside on the other. Here, I will also make a mark in the center of the window and then measure from the corner to this mark. Since we typically center the sink under the window, this is an important number to know. Now we proceed around the room, adding each measurement to our drawing. Sometimes you can't take an overall measurement because appliances or cabinetry gets in the way, so you need to take a cumulative measurement. You will have to add up a series of measurements taken from the existing cabinet faces to get the number you need. After we've taken each of our measurements, we should double check them and triple check them. Then we want to do a cumulative measurement, measuring from one wall to the other to ensure that the numbers are all accurate and that they add up. In this case, our 3 dimensions all should add up to the same number on this overall dimension. In our Getting Started package, we provide a decimal conversion chart so that you can enter fractional inches into a calculator for accurate addition. Remember, we're doing this to 1/8 of an inch. Your job may not be done yet if you're planning on incorporating additional space into your kitchen. You'll need to take dimensional drawings and measurements of that space in the same fashion as you did with a kitchen. It is also critical that you measure the thickness of the wall to be removed or opened up. The way we do that is by measuring across the face of the door jamb and without the moldings attached. In this case, 4.5 inches. This accurately gives us the plastered face to plaster face thickness. Here it is also good to note the door opening height and the height from the top of the door to the ceiling. This may be important information when determining if the wall can be completely removed or if a wider opening with a structural header is called for. So, we have all of our walls, windows, doorways entered onto our rough drawing. We've accurately measured and entered that information as well. We've noted our ceiling height and where our adjacent rooms enter into the final design. If you're planning a straightforward cabinet replacement, this is probably all you'll need to do. But before we wrap up, it's probably a good time to make measurements of any appliances that you plan on reusing in your kitchen. Let's start with the refrigerator. First, get the width, then the height to the top of the hinge caps. Then measure the box depth without the doors. This is a critical number if you plan to build in your refrigerator. Measure from the very backmost projection on the refrigerator to the face of the box. Also note swing of doors, as some doors cannot be changed. Write down the model number so your designer can determine the required side and top clearances for proper ventilation. Most other appliance information can be entered onto the planning checklist provided in the Getting Started packet. There you have it. The field work is done and it's now time to start the design process. If you're doing the design work yourself, now is the time to come up with an accurate scaled drawing. I suggest you use 1/2 inch equals 1 foot scale, as that is the industry standard. Make a clean, dark original of the walls, copy it several times, and use the copy to begin your design process. If you're using our design services, just make a cleaned up sketch of this drawing in a size that can be scanned or faxed and submit it with the rest of the required information in the Getting Started packet. So, after we've evaluated your submissions and asked you for any clarifications, we'll begin creating the kitchen of your dreams. Happy planning.